Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Mohammad Ali, and today we are back with lecture 13. And this lecture is prepared for April 30th class of Human Resource Development and at NUST, School of Social Sciences and Humanities. In this lecture, this will be the first of most probably 3 lectures on water sanitation, poverty, and how it affects human resource development. So you might be wondering why we are talking about water and sanitation in the course of human resource development, and this is the point that I want to clarify in this lecture. I will introduce this point of view. I will introduce some different types of sanitation and how they are good or bad depending on their impacts on health. So we will discuss why having access to good quality water and sufficient water is important. We'll also discuss what are the different types of sanitation and which ones are bad, which ones are good, why they are bad, why they are good. And sometimes these are very trivial topics, but not very well understood. So in this lecture, I will spend 5 to 10 minutes first on explaining why sanitation is important and what are the different types, etc. And the main agenda for the lecture today is to cover one of the World Bank reports that was published in 2018, and I was one of the co-authors of that book, not book but report. In that report, World Bank studied deeply what are the relationships between poverty levels and water sanitation and hygiene at district level, and they have posed very important questions that are usually neglected in policy making, and also at ground level. When we talk about communities, when we talk about household level, we do not really consider these things as the source of really several different types of health problems that we face in our country. So first I'll go through some of the slides that I've prepared for the sanitation types. Those of you who have taken environmental economics with me, you might be familiar with these slides, but I'll just quickly go through them so that you have an idea when I'm talking about improved sanitation, what do I mean by that? And when I'm talking about improved water, what do I mean by that? We'll be switching back and forth between the World Bank report, DHS, Demographic and Health Survey, and so that if there are some things that I want to explain from the definition point of view, then I will go to the DHS to show you what improved means and etc. So let's move forward. In the last lecture, we discussed SDGs, and there were 17 SDGs, and one of them was clean water and sanitation. This is SDG number 6. And within this SDG 6, as we saw that these SDGs are related with each other, water scarcity is related with SDG 6, contamination. And these two things are very important when we talk about sanitation and usage of water. So this is why when we are handling, like fixing one thing, we might be able to fix other SDGs as well. So this is also directly linked with health. How? We'll talk about it in few minutes. SDG poverty is linked with these nodes are not exhaustive. So we'll see very soon in 5 to 10 minutes that poverty has a direct correlation with clean water and sanitation. But of course these nodes are simplified nodes, so even though you see a lot of linkages, they are not exhaustive. So there can be many other linkages as well, as we will see later on as well. Okay, so what is goal 6 about? It's about universal and equitable access to drinking water for all. In this lecture, we'll be focusing more on sanitation, but water and sanitation are quite linked with each other, because for proper sanitation, you need good quality, at least good quantity of water. Then it talks about adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all. Equitable sanitation means that everybody should have good quality sanitation at their houses. Good quality sanitation not only involves the infrastructure in the toilet, but it also involves the transportation mechanism of the fecal matter, how it is treated, and how it is disposed of. Most of the sanitation systems are not really good because they do not have a very good transportation mechanism, or they do not have a very good disposal mechanism. So either the fecal matter is discharged into the rivers, which contaminates water, or it is left in the open spaces, which contaminates soil, contaminates also agricultural products and so on. In rural households, kids play on the streets, and if fecal matter is lying around, it poses a lot of health risk. By 2020, protect and restore water-related ecosystems. We are in 2020, so how much of this has been achieved? This is a question. Expand international cooperation and capacity building to support developing countries. So what World Bank did, part of it was a grant, part of it was a loan. So the World Bank does a lot of studies, and the studies are aimed to provide data-based qualitative and quantitative input towards policy making. So if government wants to invest in sanitation related schemes, then World Bank report could guide them on which areas they want to focus on, not only in terms of the design of the schemes, but also in terms of the target population that they should be targeting. And then we have improved water quality, increased recycling and safe reuse globally. Okay, recycling and safe reuse, we are far behind in Pakistan, but we talk about improved water quality. It's one thing to have a tap running. It's one thing to have 24/7 access to water in your taps, but it's another thing to have a good quality water. So if you go to Europe, even though they do not recommend drinking tap water, but even if you you'll be safe. I'm the living example of that. I used to drink tap water in Germany and also in Czech Republic. They do not recommend that, but it's much safer than what we drink here in Pakistan from taps. So having good quality water access is also one of the very important goals here. And support and strengthen the participation of local communities. This is how many of the sanitation related schemes work under the World Bank. So they target communities, and they train them, they educate them, and then they involve them in the policy making, so that not only policy making but also in implementation of the schemes, so that they have the ownership at the end. So if there is a World Bank team with the cooperation from the government that goes in the field, does some infrastructure work, and then leaves, then there will be no ownership. And what happens is that because nobody is interested in maintaining those schemes get obsoleted, depreciated, and because of lack of maintenance, the schemes do not work anymore after a year or so. So involvement of communities is not only important for that scheme only, it's also important for communities to help build the capacity for the people that live in that community for the future schemes as well. So if people know how to maintain those sanitation and water schemes, then they know how to maintain the future schemes as well. So there is a sense of ownership, also good capacity to operate those schemes and also to maintain them. So this is goal 6. and you might hear more background noise than usual in my video today. So this is very close to the iftar time, and there are many things going around around my room. So everybody is doing things from home. So we are expecting this kind of problems with the recording of lectures. Okay, so bear with me. Sorry for that. Okay, so this picture shows why good quality sanitation is important. So this is a picture of a village, let's say. This is a housing community. This lady is fetching water from the river, and this well is taking water from the seepage from this river. Okay, and here we have a guy doing his business, and we have a toilet here that is connected with the river. So as I said before, some of the toilet systems are good inside the toilet itself, but the disposal mechanism is seriously flawed. So this is one of those examples that this pit latrine is connected with the river, so that all the fecal matter is going inside the river, and when this flows in this direction, this lady is actually taking away the contaminated water, and this lady has already fetched this water, so she is going back home. She might use it without treatment for food and water, for drinking water and so on. You can imagine how many health risks are associated with this kind of activity. And also, if there is a guy here doing this in the open, it not only contaminates water through rainfall, etc., but it also leaves the fecal matter in the open. So you can see that it's a very nice green field, and in rural areas we see many children playing around in these kind of fields. So exposure to the fecal matter is very obvious, and this leads to a lot of waterborne diseases, fecal oral route, and so on and so forth. So this is why discussing sanitation is very important in terms of human resource development. So when we talk about improved sanitation, we talk about flush toilet, a toilet that is connected with a flush, and in urban areas we are all familiar with that. That toilet system should be connected with a piped sewer system. So these are different types. So flush toilet, pipe sewer system. If there is no pipe sewer system, then there is if there is a septic tank, it is also considered improved sanitation. Septic tank, I think I have some pictures of that. I'll show you later on. So these are the types of improved sanitation. On the right hand side we have unimproved sanitation. So pit latrine without slab, it means that this kind of latrine that we just saw, this one, it's called pit latrine, and it doesn't, if this one has a slab, there is this thing that is raising above the ground level, it's called slab. It's much higher than we have in practice, but in some cases there is no slab at all, so it's just a floor with some hole in it. So the one without slab is called unimproved. Then there is a bucket toilet, hanging toilet. We'll see some pictures of that. This slide, I'll share this slide, so I don't want to read these things out. You should read them later on. They are good for your understanding, and later on I'll show you that this data is very important and it's readily available. Plus, not many researchers are working on it in Pakistan. Plus, the journals in this field are very open to good quality work. So there is much less saturation as compared to mainstream economics. So if you want to do something in this area, there is a lot of scope. Okay. So this is a good quality toilet, flush toilet, and then flush to pipe sewer, as I was mentioning before. This is what it looks like. So houses are connected with pipes, and there are some sewerage mechanisms for treatment and storage, and then there is a disposal of this sewer in some remote place. Okay, and on the right hand side, what you see is it's a sophisticated septic tank. In Pakistan, when you talk about septic tanks, they are not of this kind of quality. So this is the ideal version, and it's difficult to maintain, but it's much safer than any other type of pit latrine or septic tanks, because the water that goes out of it is good enough to use for agriculture. So even though this water has been used for toilet purposes, this water is still usable for agricultural uses. So in Pakistan, what we have is that it's a line kind of a big tank under the ground, and when this is filled, then they install another tank, or they empty it up and then they reuse it, like the pits. So it's not the septic tank that you are seeing here. When we talk about septic tanks in Pakistan, it's much different from what we are seeing right here. Anyways, it's much better. Even if it is not the best quality, it is much better than the pit latrine, because what happens in the pit latrine is that if it is something like this, and assuming that it is not lined, what lined means is that there is a cement wall around this hole, so that the contamination is not seeping into the ground. And if this is happening, its contamination is seeping into the ground, then what happens is that this thing is not only confined to the wells that are near to the river. Even if this pit latrine is somewhere around here, and if there is a hand pump nearby, what it means is that you are actually extracting the contaminated water from this pit latrine and drinking it. And this is what has been happening. We'll see in the World Bank report as well, that this is what has been happening in Pakistan, that we have this kind of latrine more often in rural areas, and in the small houses. This is not too far away from a hand pump, which is also very common in rural areas. So shallow hand pumps are severely contaminated with fecal pathogens. The reason is that this fecal contamination is seeped into the ground, and then we extracted this water from hand pumps and then we drink it. So these are the things that we have to really consider when we are talking about policy making, improving human lives and human resource. So this is why we have to discuss this topic in this course as well. Some types of pit latrines. This is pore flush latrine. So there are different types, and these are the definitions explaining what these kinds are about. If some of you are interested in doing research on this, so these slides will be very useful for you. This is recorded in the video, but I will also share the PPT slides as well. VIP, ventilated improved pit. VIP latrine is it's like any other pit latrine, but with this ventilation pipe right here. So it helps with the ventilation, and it helps with the flies as well. So flies do not gather in this kind of washroom. So this is how it looks like in reality. This is the drawing of it. This is how it looks like. These are the pictures from real life ventilated improved pits. This is pit latrine with slab. There is some slab here. You can see that there is some slab. So it kind of raises up from the ground. That's why it's called pit latrine with slab. Some of them are without slabs. So this right here is without slab. It's just something on the ground, and it is not raising above the ground level, which is exposing it to many, exposing the person who is using it to many health risks, I should say. This is how it looks like in real life. Pit latrines are something like this. Much better than open defecation, by the way. But it's just one step better than open defecation. It can be much better than that. Compost toilet is when you use the toilet, and the fecal matter is then stored in this kind of tanker, as it is shown here, and it then transforms with some help of chemicals. It is then transformed into fertilizers. And buckets, I don't know why this guy is so happy, but this is bucket latrine is that there is a bucket under the toilet, and then it is emptied. Sometimes it is something like this, and this is the type of hanging toilet. Hanging toilet means that it's just a infrastructure, and all the fecal matter is directly disposed into the water stream. You can imagine how bad this is. Okay, now some numbers. These numbers are from Demographic and Health Survey 2017-18, the latest one. Punjab has, this is blue is urban, orange is rural, and gray is overall, meaning rural and urban combined. So improved sanitation access is the highest in Islamabad. This is 94. Islamabad is considered a separate region, even though it is right next to kind of almost within Punjab, but it is considered a separate region. So this is why you see ICT separately from other provinces. This is apart from Islamabad, this is in comparison to other provinces highest in Punjab. 74% of the households in Punjab have improved sanitation access, much higher in urban areas than rural areas, and this is the common feature in all these things. So Sindh, look at the difference, because Sindh includes Karachi, and Karachi has better improved sanitation facilities, so this is primarily pushed by Karachi. And look at the rural improved water access is very bad, 28%, lowest in Pakistan. KPK, again similar to Punjab right here, and Balochistan also rural urban divide is quite clear. ICT rural side shows better improved sanitation. Rural and urban definitions in ICT are quite controversial. Controversial in the sense that they are outdated, not controversial. They are outdated. Some of the areas that are still considered rural are quite urban by definition. So these two numbers are quite confusing, but even in rural areas, improved sanitation is almost 100%. So that's what you should take away from this picture. FATA, on the other hand, just like Sindh, there is a big divide between urban FATA and rural FATA. Now FATA has been merged with KPK, so things are supposed to improve, but it's half. Access to improved sanitation in rural FATA is half as compared to the access in urban areas. And then we have open defecation. Comparing, these are older figures. This is from the presentations for the report that I'm going to show later on. This slide is comparing 2004 and 5 with 14 and 15. So this is a 10-year period. In this 10-year period, open defecation has decreased from 29% to 13%. Open defecation is the figure that we showed, green field and some water extracting lady and so on. The guy who was doing his business, the process of doing his business is called open defecation in the field. Okay, and this has been even more than halved. So that's a good thing. So less and less people are defecating in the open, and less people are contaminating the environment. Okay, and this is primarily rural phenomena. Here you can see that in urban areas, 12%, in 11%, 17%, these guys are not using improved sanitation. But unimproved sanitation is not only open defecation; it includes other types as well, as we saw here in this slide. So unimproved include all these types with open defecation right here. So no facilities means open defecation. So all these types are also considered unimproved. So if a region like Balochistan has 80% of improved sanitation access, 20% could include many of those other types as well. So it's primarily a rural phenomena, and in Pakistan 1% of the population in urban areas practice open defecation. So it's almost going near zero, which is very, very good. Balochistan and Punjab have made significant progress in this period, and it is, as you can see already from this bullet point right here, this open defecation is directly correlated with poverty. People who do open defecation are mostly really poor. They cannot afford to have toilets in their households. This is why they have to practice open defecation. Okay, already you can see the connection between poverty and open defecation, and you'll see more evidence later on in the report as well. Now, we have been talking about sanitation. Now connect open defecation with stunting. What is stunting? Stunting means that if a child does not grow up to his potential, in very easy words, it means that even though we measure stunting with the measurement of height, we measure if a child is living in Pakistan, by age of 5 he should reach certain centimeters in height. If he is not reaching that height, if he is significantly shorter than the reference group, then it means that the child is stunted. It means that the child did not grow up to his or her potential, and this is very problematic for growth, for human resource development, because a child who is stunted is very likely to be less productive when he grows up. His cognitive skills will be much lower than average. His health will be seriously affected. So the child is simply not growing up to the potential that he is supposed to grow up. And one of the reasons behind that is open defecation. So in this table right here, what you see is that we have 4 provinces and we have open defecation rate. So this is how much of the percentage of our population practices open defecation. It is highest in Punjab. And this column right here is telling you the share of population living in these provinces. Okay, and this right here is telling you how many of the total households in Pakistan that are practicing OD, how much is the percentage living in Punjab. So 69% of the total people practicing open defecation are living in Punjab. So that's what this column is telling you. Then this is the stunting rate. It means that under 5 children who are not reaching the reaching to the potential height that they could have. This is 38%. 38% of the under 5 children are stunted in Punjab. 49% of the under 5 children are stunted in KP, 47% in Sindh, and 53% in Balochistan. These numbers are slightly older. We have newer numbers available now. According to these numbers, 45% was the stunting rate in Pakistan. Now we have under 40%, which is a good improvement, and it had been staying at 45% level for a few years now, and it's a good thing that stunting levels are declining now. Again, similar to this column right here, this one tells you how many of the stunted children in Pakistan live in Punjab. So out of all the stunted children in Pakistan, 55% live in Punjab, 14% in KP, 26% in Sindh, and 5% in Balochistan. Okay, and this bar chart right here, it tells you the reduction in open defecation. So Punjab has seen the biggest fall in open defecation, but all of the regions, all of the provinces have seen a significant decline in open defecation, which is good. But still 13% nationally is a big number. This has further declined. This slide is not updated, but still it is very high. In many developed and transition economies, this number is 0%. Nobody does that. But in Pakistan, it's still quite high, near 9 to 10% still, I think. All right, so these few scatter plots with some trend lines show you the relationship between poverty and toilet access. Okay, so this is poverty. Is higher the poverty levels, lower is the access to flush to sewer. So these are the good types of toilets, and higher the level of poverty, higher is the open defecation. Sorry, higher is the latrines and flush to open drains. So this is a upward trend, and similar is here. So because I read open, I thought it's open defecation. Open defecation is here, but the graph is very similar. Higher the district level poverty. So these are the regions in every province. Blue are the regions in Sindh. Orange are the regions in Punjab. The higher the level of poverty, higher is the open defecation. This is what this upward line is telling you. Flush to septic tank is not as good as flush to sewer, but much better than, for example, latrines. Is that the higher the level of poverty, less is the flush to sewer. So there is a clear depiction of correlation between poverty and sanitation access. All right, I don't think that we need to dig much deeper into that. Just look at these blue parts right here. Blue is flush to sewer, and higher the blue, better it is. Okay, so in Punjab and Sindh, you can see this blue parts are much higher. Okay, and between 2004 and 5 and 14-15. In these 10 years, this proportion has increased. Here by about 4 percentage points, here by about 11. So this is a very good thing. In Balochistan, it has declined. This gray part has increased. Gray is flush to open drain. Problem with open drain is that the fecal matter is in the open. That's why we do not want that. Okay. In this graph right here, this was for urban. Now this is for rural. In rural areas, this blue part is very small. So in Punjab, it's 6.5%, is highest among the rural parts. In other regions, 6.5% in 2014-15, and in other areas 0.09, 0.9. This is KPK in 14-15, Balochistan in 14-15. Even in Sindh is 4.25. So rural areas are not doing very well. Yellow ones are latrines, and latrines are predominantly so these are after OD, open defecation. Look at the open defecation right here. This green is open defecation as shown here. Open defecation and latrines are the most commonly used types of latrines, toilets in rural areas. And these are the types of drains. I don't think we need to go into detail. And this is expansion of access to toilets by income quintile. Again, similar story. We have seen different types of the figures to explain this point. So I'll just leave this for you to read it out and understand. Just look at this right here. It's a comparison between 4.5 and 13-14, and it shows flush to sewer, for example, how much it has improved. And these are the quintiles. Previously, we were looking at geographical regions. Now this is income quintiles. So it tells you if a household is rich, if he is more likely to have some type of toilet or not. Okay, so these set of slides end here. Now I want to discuss this report by World Bank. This is called When Water Becomes a Hazard. So the title of the report suggests that it's about water, but it's about water plus sanitation, hygiene, and also poverty. So they have done extensive work in calculating poverty and then correlating with the wash access. Okay, so I've spent significant time in explaining the sanitation types and the coverage. Now I'll just briefly outline some of the key messages that are coming out of this report. So the first key message is that Pakistan has made substantial progress in reducing poverty, but spatial disparities in poverty levels as well as in the pace of poverty reduction remain large. 4 out of 5 poor Pakistanis still live in rural areas, and there are large differences in the level and rate of progress on poverty reduction across districts. So this is the executive summary. I will share the link of this report as well as the PDF in the MS Teams, so you can have a look and understand. So in the next lecture, next week, I will discuss in detail in one of each of these chapters. So this is just the key messages. I will end this lecture on key messages, and in the next lecture we will discuss in detail what these messages are about. So they have measured poverty for all the years for which PSLM and HIS of Pakistan Bureau of Statistics were available. So 2001 to 2014. Okay, and so this is what Pakistan has achieved. 64% was the poverty level in 2001, and it has gone down by to 30% in 2014. Okay, which is a big achievement. Okay, and asset ownership has improved, dietary diversity has improved, and this has been shown in bottom quintile as well. So the poor people have also shown these kind of improvements. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa KP has seen the biggest improvement in poverty, meaning reduction in poverty, and followed by Punjab and Sindh. Balochistan remains the poorest province in country, with a head count poverty rate of almost 57%. This is the graph. The one on the left, it's showing you the poverty head count, meaning percentage of people living under poverty. The right one shows you the decline in poverty between 2006-07 and 14-15. So these percentage are is showing you the higher the percentage is, it's blue. Blue means that highest percentage of decline in poverty, meaning that higher the number is, that many percentage of people came out of poverty. So this is a good thing. The red spots like here Ghotki, here I think Mirpur Khas, these are the places where poverty incidence has actually increased. That's why this is a negative. Here we can see 6% to 10%. The lower the number is, the better it is. So the blue areas, Chitral, Punjab, mostly northern Punjab is blue. You can clearly see the urban and rural divide here. In Sindh, story is kind of a reverse, because this is a lighter shade in the south, darker shade in the northern part, which is strange. But this whole thing right here is a South Punjab. Politically, we have also heard about South Punjab province and so on, because of the right reasons, because you can clearly see that this is the northern Punjab. I'm not saying North Punjab because there is no physical demarcation of North and South Punjab. We can just count some of the district as part of the northern Punjab or southern Punjab. So this part right here, you can clearly see that there is some spatial correlation of poverty as well. So these districts are closer together and all are in somewhere around this range, high level of poverty. In Sindh, Karachi is of course the outlier, because it's a very urban city, and poverty levels are very, very low, 6 to 10%. But you can see that in Balochistan, most of it is red. Awaran and the dark red spots are all in Balochistan. You can see that it's not doing very well. Some of the better places are around here, lighter. I don't know what this color is, but it's not red, so that's a good thing for us. All right, and here we can see the clear improvement in again, this is part of Balochistan, so there has been clear improvement. Still these regions are not doing very well. So imagine where they were standing in 2006-07. If even after reaching this point, they have improved a lot. Okay, so this is Ghotki, this is Mirpur Khas, I think, and this is where poverty has actually increased. The biggest improvements are seen in Loralai, Karachi, Lasbela. So these are the places that have seen reduction in poverty during this period. Then urban and rural poverty. So even within urban areas, we can see that there are some slums or some pockets of poverty where there is a percentage of population that is living under poverty line. Okay, so even as this second point is telling us, but pockets of high poverty exist within better off areas. Districts that host large cities like Lahore, Rawalpindi and Faisalabad have much higher levels of within districts inequality than smaller. So what this means is that in one district you'll see big proportion that is rich, and also a big proportion that is very, very poor. So these are the urban slums. You may have heard about them. This is also true in India as well. For example, in Mumbai, there is a big population that lives in poverty, under poverty in Mumbai, very close to the well-off regions in Mumbai. So those are urban slums, and in Pakistan also this is what is happening. So these two maps are actually showing you. On the left hand side is the same picture as before, is the poverty head count. On the right hand side, what you can see is that this is the proportion of people out of the total population in Pakistan that are poor and living in these areas. So you can see these blue parts right here because of the low population density in Balochistan, the districts in Balochistan. That's why out of the total poor population in Pakistan, only few are living in these areas. Not because these regions are doing well, is because only few people are living there. Population density is lower. So as compared to the other regions, these regions are showing blue. So it's the proportion of poor living in this area as compared to the total country are lower. So this is also true for many areas in KPK, Chitral as well. The red spots are the regions, southern Punjab again. These are the places where most of the people are living in. So this is Faisalabad, this is Lahore. Even though when you see them here, you can see that the poverty head count is lower. But out of the total population that is poor in the country, many are living in these cities as well. So it tells us that poverty incidence is quite high, and we should take into consideration not only the poverty head count, but also we have to think about how many of the poor people are living in these regions. So poverty head count, just looking at the poverty head count might not be sufficient. Key message 3 is something that we have seen already. Pakistan has seen a significant decline in open defecation. Key message 4 is large rural-urban gaps in wash access persist. This is also, we have seen that in rural areas, we have seen only for sanitation, but this is for water and sanitation both, and hygiene as well. So we have seen that there is a big difference between how urban areas are performing or have access to wash facilities as compared to the rural ones. Key message 5 is that at district level, there is a strong positive correlation between poverty and quality of water and sanitation infrastructure. Water we did not see in the slides, we will see in this report later on, but we have seen already that at district level, there is a clear correlation between, we saw with the scattered plots in the PowerPoint slides as well, that the regions that have low levels of poverty are more likely to have better access to sanitation. So there is a correlation between the two. And last set of maps for this lecture, improved access to improved toilets. We have covered it in the beginning of this lecture, what are the improved toilets, and this tells us that the shading for the regions is the same as we have seen before. This shading is telling us the level of poverty, and these vertical bars are telling us what is the percentage of population using improved toilets. So in this part of KPK, northern part, actually in most parts, in northern parts of Punjab, we can see the higher levels of vertical bars, meaning that the regions where we have blue geographical regions, meaning low level of poverty, improved toilets are higher. So this is what this graph is telling you. On the other side, within improved toilets, we saw that the best type of toilet is flush to sewer, and flush to sewer is more common in urban spots. So Karachi, you can see that there is a big line right here. This is Lahore, really big. This is, I think, Faisalabad. So these urban areas have this flush to sewer access. Rest are very, very low. Flush to sewer is the best one, and the best option is mostly available in very rich areas. All right, so I will end this first part of this lecture here. So lecture 13 will end here. In lecture 14, I will go much deeper into this same report. We will discuss different granular details about different aspects of sanitation and water as well, how it affects child health, and how it is correlated with poverty. We'll see different angles of looking at the same problem. And in lecture 15, I plan to cover one of my papers that explored the correlation or multi-sectoral contribution towards reducing malnutrition. So stunting rate, we saw briefly in the beginning of this lecture that stunting rates are higher in Pakistan, and what is the way to cut them down or reduce them. In one of my papers, I used a methodology by Emmanuel Escofias of the World Bank, and I tried to explore if combination of food interventions with health interventions and sanitation interventions would help in reducing the stunting rate, and I plan to cover that paper in lecture number 15. And the last lecture will most probably be on education side, but I will explain later on. I am still thinking about it. All right, so best of luck with your thesis. I know that April 30th is the last date for submission of your thesis. I hope that by the time you are listening to this lecture, you have already submitted it, and there is no stress. So I'll be back with lecture number 14, and I'll upload this PDF, also my slides on MS Teams. Please have a look. And we have not decided yet about the mode of examination, but all these things will be covered in there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I think I will arrange a meeting on Monday, interactive session. Please do come and join us and ask questions if you have any clarification questions on this. Okay, thank you so much.